We've been joined by the chairman of the Political Parties Regulation Commission, PPRC, Emmanuel Quiver Amara Esquire. The chairman is here to talk about the operations of PPRC, the outcome of the SLPP lower level and regional elections, building up ahead of the All People's Congress APC party lower level and regional election in August. Operations of political parties ahead of the 2028 general elections, among other things. Good morning, Mr. Chairman, and welcome to AYV. Since you were appointed as the chairman of the Political Parties Commission, PPRC.
Good morning.
Thank you very much. Good morning.
Thanks for being here this morning.
Thank you for having me.
Yes, it's almost 6 months since you took over as the chairman of the commission. How it has been for you from that transformation process from ACC to the PPRC?
Well, I always say it actually was a 160 turnaround because I had been fighting graft ever since, and that had been my domain. So I had little or nothing to do with politicians actually, except if they were sitting on seats where they could be described as public officials, and they had meddled, into something that affected the Anti-Corruption Act. But coming to actually work with them firsthand, it's quite an experience. And since I came in January, I would say I hit the ground running. Because once I was in the commission, the PPRC in January, in February, the SLPP commenced their lower level elections. And as you know, it is still yet to be concluded. The whole process onto the national level.
Yeah.
Before we delve into the elections and other things, maybe you might want to remind viewers about the core mandates of the PPRC. I asked that because, there will be several questions followed through with regards to the elections and the role of PPRC within those elections.
Well, the Political Parties Act of 2022 actually repealed, the former act, and you realize that following that act, the enactment of that act, the acronym PPRC remained, but the meaning changed. Initially, it was Political Parties Registration Commission, but by reason of the 2022 act, it is now the PPRC, by reason of its Political Parties Regulation Commission. And registration, you will agree with me, was really a confined kind of task, but regulation is broader. So the PPRC is a commission that is responsible for the regulation of conduct of political parties in the democratic space of Sierra Leone.
Now, with regards the concluded, lower level regional elections, for the SLPP, what role did the PPRC played in ensuring compliance and transparency?
We played a traditional role of monitoring to ensure that the rules of engagement in democratic dispensation were followed. After the first round of lower level elections in February, as a regulator, if political parties went to a party, for instance, and the rules of dancing in that party were not followed, they who might have been aggrieved would have the right to petition. So following the first set of elections, we had petitions, a lot of them. And we had petition hearings. Following the petition hearings, we released our decision on the hearings that we held. And of course, those decisions, would stand, or if you did not agree with any of our decisions, the law makes it clear what to do. So whilst we were doing the hearings, the party had written to us, the leadership of the party, the chairman and the secretary general had written to us that the remaining elections going forward, we should conduct. That's to say, they were requesting us to conduct those elections. But afterwards, after we released our decisions, I think they felt much better. So they said, okay, now let's withdraw the request and we'll go conduct the elections. They went and conducted the next level of elections. And again, petitions, came to us. So like in 2016, because that was when the practice started, they actually came back to us and said, you now conduct our elections onto district level. So we conducted the elections from that point onto district level and gave them back their process. And once the process was returned to them, we now took back our traditional role of monitoring to ensure that there was compliance with democratic practices.
There were back and forth, with PPRC and the SLPP, during the processes you are talking about, their lower level election, ward and also the regions, and it halted as a result of violence, within party members, and houses also were allegedly burnt down, all of that. But what is the process of PPRC, or how do PPRC come in sometimes to regulate those processes? I know they went back to you, petitions with regards to that, but also moving away from that, before political party go for such nature elections, they should be able to guide it, not on the process, but before the process. I know series of meetings has been held with PPRC and political parties, guiding them, their structure, and moving into such nature elections like this. Are they not adhere to the political parties, PPRC regulations?
Well, before political parties go into engagements like the SLPP is doing now, we request them to have their regulations. That's in addition to their constitution. So regulations are actually, the blueprints that political parties use to engage in those lower level elections. And we had engaged the leadership even before the commencement of the elections. And we've had continuous engagements. So we do not give them regulations. They give us their regulations, gazette them, put them out for whatever petition and all, and once it is farmed up, that is what they use. And the SLPP had their regulations since 2021, which they used, and their constitution 2020. So that's what they've been using, and that's what they use. So when we monitor as a regulator, we don't impose. We actually look at the rules that you have set, you have agreed upon amongst yourselves, and see whether you follow those rules. So when we hold our petitions, or when petitions are brought forth to us, they are actually brought contingent upon, non-compliance with some of those rules. And if it were so, those petitions will be upheld. Otherwise, we'll dismiss them.
I know, and someone might want to ask, is PPRC compromising? Because it's SLPP. They are one of the biggest parties in Sierra Leone in terms of following due process. And I spoke to one of my friends and he told me that if it was like the other smaller parties, PPRC would have come hard on them. With all what happened, during the process of the SLPP in their regions, lower level election. Erupted on violence, issues around petition. It was serious, and SLPP they themselves asked for PPRC to conduct the elections.
Yes, you're talking of violence. I see you repeatedly go into violence. Violence, offenses like arson, that's burning of houses, or assault, wounding persons with intent to create bodily harm. They are matters for the police. And remember, in our work as the PPRC, in all of what we've been doing, especially with the lower level elections at the of the SLPP, we've been working very seriously.
But that's as a result because the process did not follow. That led to violence, in some of these cases.
I don't agree with you, sir. If processes are not followed, you have what to do, right? But then, if processes are not followed and I feel aggrieved, and I actually hit you and inflict an injury upon your body, that's not the proper thing to do. There are clear laws that take care of those kind of conduct. It's not a PPRC does not deal with assault. PPRC does not deal with arson. PPRC deals with political parties and the way they should do their things. So if for any reason you are an active and vibrant member, or maybe some jingoistic youth in a crowd where elections are taking place, you went there and you hurt somebody, you'll be handed over to the police. Because clearly it will not be your leadership that may have sent you to do that kind of thing. Oh. And remember, when we work with political parties, we work with political parties as partners. Well, to say if it were some other party, it wouldn't have been different anyway. That's what the PPRC is doing now, is what it will do. Remember, it is when you have discretion, that is when you have the tendency of abusing your position. But at the PPRC, there isn't much discretion, except otherwise if you say we listen to people. But then when we listen to even petitions, we look at the rules. We are guided by law. We are guided by rules. We are guided every path along the way. We have laws that guide us. So discretion is really very small.
SLPP is just one party, APC is another among many of the other political parties that we have. Now, as the APC prepares for its own internal elections in August now, what is the commission putting in place to ensure, political stability and adherence to, the party constitutions?
Well, as I've said earlier, we deal with rules, we deal with laws. Quite ahead of their lower level elections, the All People's Congress is embarking on a very serious registration process, knowing your members. That one is going to help a lot. And as a commission, we pray they succeed. That one is going to help a lot. Because then, when you go to Kubola, for instance, and you are doing a sectional election, you know who is APC at Kubola already. You have the list. So nobody comes from any other place to say, no, I'm here, I'm APC, I'm grassroots. So that's going to help, and they're working on it. Secondly, they have completed their rules and submitted the same to us. We've sent that one to the government printer for gazetting, and they have sent it back to us in record time. So just yesterday, we sent the proposed gazetted rules back to the party secretariat, to the party leadership. Let them look at it. Whether there is anything they want to edit, anything they want to review, they send it back. We'll send it to the printers for final printing, and then we'll put it out now for petition if there is anybody that wants to say anything on it, etc. These are all preparations to ensure that we have a roadmap to follow when those lower level elections commence. Because you cannot go to elections without rules.
Yeah. The role of the PPRC is very integral, in terms of, the processes of those elections. Are there any sort of sanctions or penalties for parties who would, or candidates, that breaches the PPRC code of conduct?
Yes, of course. Our laws make provision for fines, where parties misbehave. We actually will not fall on persons. If you misbehave as an individual and it results to crime, or it's actually offends a particular provision of the law that deals with crime, that will be for the police. Yeah. But even where you misbehave as an individual, will actually come after the party, because it's a party, you understand, that will regulate. And you would not have done what you would do, for instance, if it were not for the reason that you belong to the party. And clearly, we're all human beings, we're in the space. When somebody misbehaves, you may have a child, and the child misbehaves. In fact, it embarrasses you, big time. But what happens is that if the child misbehaves, and by conduct you give that child support, you will know, you the onlooker will know. So when you don't fall on the child, you fall on the family. So that's how we do things at the PPRC as per law.
Your first assignment as the chairman of the PPRC was, or is the SLPP. lower level election, one of the biggest political parties in Sierra Leone. And we know how huge is that, more especially if we are to, able to guide our democratic process. Yeah, the PPRC played a pivotal role into that as well. And the SLPP, actually have done their primary elections, and they're moving out to their national election, and which is very key. And yesterday they held their last NAC meeting, and which what should I say? All the executive members are no longer, holding such position again, and they will be going to their national election 2 days to the end of this month, July. With what PPRC saw, in the primary election, now moving to the national, what are the process and how PPRC is going to guide such election process? Because that is very huge. It's huge than the primary election as well. Where you're going to choose your chairman and another top executive position as well.
Well, if you talk of guidance by the PPRC, you're merely saying the PPRC fleshes out the rules or the law that must, be followed. For instance, the term of the executive of the SLPP ended at midnight last night. So as at today, for instance, Dr. Prince Alex Harding and my comrade Napoleon Kuroma are no longer chairman and secretary general of the party. So in essence, now the arrangement of the party for the election you're talking about is in the hand of the leader only, and the deputy leader. So now, their law says where they actually have, exhausted their term completely, and because this is a complete exhaustion of their term. Remember, the term ended in December. They were, as per law, they could take three months as per NAC, sanctioning, but they took all 6 months together, and now the 6 months expired last night. So in essence, they are no more. The leader now takes the lead of the party. He will now go ahead as per law to form an interim body called the IMOC, and the IMOC function as though they were the executive of the party, taking the party to the National Delegates Conference. And we'll monitor the process.
Yeah. Because, okay, go ahead, Marina.
Now there has been sort of allegations, of intimidation and irregularities during the just concluded SLPP lower level elections. From the PPRC point of view, what were some of the mechanisms or steps, taken in order to address all those issues?
Well, when you talk of irregularities in elections at political party level, the PPRC will only confirm irregularity when there are petitions. Because if elections were irregular, and you who complain irregularity, being a participant, as per law, could well be a petitioner. So until we have petitions, we'll actually not be talking about irregularities anyway. Elections, wherever human beings are, this is general comment, elections are marked by tension everywhere in the world. There are emotions, and that kind of stuff. Some of the time you're defeated and you may not have done your work very well, but then you want to blame it on something. We always want to blame it on something. But we at the PPRC only determine election irregularity contingent upon petitions received from petitioners.
Did the PPRC in any way, observe any form of stage manage, as some of the people have been complaining about?
Well, those complaints, no. Stage managed elections? No. Elections, all of the elections that we observed and all of the ones that we conducted, we are done in the open.
I'm talking about, the just concluded lower level elections for the SLPP.
Yeah, all of them are lower level elections. Because we conducted some of the lower level elections, the party conducted some, and we observed almost all of the elections. Of course, the ones the ones in which we are in conduct, we are present. And those we are not in conduct, we are there to monitor. And we did not see any box taken and moved to some part, to be stuffed and brought back to be counted. That's what you call stage managed. Elections are all based on campaign. We go there, we see people come out to vote, they are given voter slips, they vote, and they move up. At the end of the day, ballot papers are sorted, and then counted. And once counted, announcements are made. So we did not. Maybe there is something that I don't know. Did not observe
Interesting.
that.
I know. But should I say it's a test case for you and the PPRC team with engagements you've held, reviewing the PPRC Act and engaging political parties, and we're gearing up, to 2028 elections, and probably, we have barely 3 years or so to go, and the SLPP, they kickstart the process of them holding the election, and APC will follow too, and other political parties as well. I think we have over 14 or so of them, political parties who contested the last election. And how is PPRC prepared to, whether it's to regulate them or to guide the political party moving towards their processes, and then leading to the general elections?
We're prepared. When we go to bed and wake up every work day, and in fact sometimes on weekends, every staff, starting from me down to the last staff standing at the PPRC, all we think about is how we must do our job. That's to regulate, work with political parties, ensure that they keep within their laws, their rules, and ensure that the democratic space is not bastardized. So that is what, in fact, that sometimes I sleep, I don't know, it's a hazy thing, I see myself, in meetings and that kind of stuff. That's to tell you the extent to which we are braced up very well as a team to do our work. So we're prepared. We're prepared.
And what about the other political parties, and who are still lacking behind in follow the due process, in putting the house together, or we should not wait until a year or so towards the general election, and that's the time PPRC is actually, following, monitoring their process in terms of what they're doing, putting the house in order structure, before we go to the election.
All right. Now, every political party has their constitution, and they are guided by that constitution. All right? Like you said, the SLPP has come first. It did not come first by balloting.
Yeah.
I mean, with regards to primary level elections. It's as a result of the fact that the term of the executive, you understand, was to come to an end last night, midnight last night. So they had to make preparations for their lower level elections. The APC has some more time, but then they want to come well ahead of time to ensure that they start, because you never know how far you will go, because there could be petitions, counter petitions, and that kind of stuff. So they're starting well ahead of time to ensure that they have enough time to do some other administrative stops within their party. Every party, every party has their calendar in regard what they do and how they should do it. So we work with political parties every day. When we open, in fact, as for now, our offices are open. Of course, they've been open long ago this morning. Yeah. We maintain an open door policy. Political parties are our partners. If you belong to a political party and there was anything brewing there which was not satisfactory by your standard, you are free to just come to the office without an appointment. We'll see you, we'll talk to you, we'll actually move to ensuring that problem will be solved. That's why we have a whole mediation department. So we work with political parties every day. We don't wait until 2 years to elections. We work with them every day.
Now, 2028 may seem far, but political parties are already forming. Like I said, they're doing their lower level elections, and quite soon we shall be seeing the APC also going into the lower level elections. Are political parties truly preparing in line with the democratic principles, or are we headed, for another electoral crisis?
Do I hear the voice of a pessimist?
And I'm just asking
All right,
questions,
seriously.
please.
All right, now let me make this clear.
Thank you.
The PPRC is like the coach that prepares a team for a match. The match itself is not handled by PPRC. It's handled by ECSL.
Of which I know.
Good. So in essence, we are working in political parties in preparation for everything good for them, especially taking into consideration 2028 within the democratic space. I will not say, you know, there are parties that have more muscles than others. Of course, we all know. But the fact of the matter is, to us, a political party is a political party. We look at them through the same lenses and ensure that we do our work with them as much as possible to ensure that they are prepared enough, prepared to the best of their abilities and capabilities. That's why it's in fact part of our package. We actually move around to see that we have capacity building, you know, trainings for political parties, just so that we bring them to speed for competition. So as a coach, if you like, you know, as a coach, we're actually preparing every political party, you know, with the highest standard of fitness for the match in 2028.
You know, Coach Mohamed Kalor. I know you're running now for a very important meeting, and before we join the sports team. But quickly, I know the PPRC is also part of the implementation of the tripartite recommendation, and that is very key ahead of the election as well. So what has been the role of PPRC in that, and how are we seeing the process, you know?
Of course, we'll have to have a review of our act as per the tripartite recommendations before 2028. As I speak to you, we have concluded, you know, the drafting together with the Law Officers Department. I mean, the Office of the Attorney General. We've concluded the drafting of the political campaign financing regulation. And very soon, when the AG comes back, that will be laid in the well of Parliament, because it's part of what we were supposed to do as per the recommendations of the tripartite. So we pretty much, and of course we are in the committee. There is now a secretariat, you know, headed by the Chief Minister. There is, you know, working with the Chief Minister's office, headed by the Chief Minister. That is actually like, you know, or maybe say superintended by the Chief Minister. That's actually working on all of those ramifications that relate and pertain to the tripartite, and we are very much part of it.
Okay, as we let you go, what will be your message to political parties, you know, as all of them are preparing for the various activities, including the SLPP? Sorry, I said NAC of SLPP, but I think it's NEC.
Yeah.
And thank you, Momo. It's NEC of the SLPP held their final meeting yesterday, and the APC also will move right to the other process, and all the political parties. You're like the father, you know, of the political parties, sincerely, as well. So what will be your message to them, sort of advising them they should not fall, you know, victim? At least let the PPRC did not hit them hard.
No, well, like I say, political parties are partners, and we do not ambush political parties as regulators. We work with them. That is why, if you're working to the door, for instance, to that door, we'll work with you, and if there was a declivity before reaching the door, even if you are not watching, we'll point it out, so that you ensure you take care of that declivity and you do not fall while walking to the door. So I admonish political parties, first let them know that the political parties that they belong to, they're like family. So when they compete amongst themselves, let them compete as though they were competing in a family. Because if they actually heighten animosity, how do they now come together to face the general Sierra Leonean public by way of campaign in 2028? If I've hurt you to the point that you cannot withstand it, and we live in the same home, you will never enter into my room. We'll be under the same room, but you will not come into my room. I'll not go into your room. And that will not be good for the building, because if there are cracks in your room, I may be, you know, I may be more positioned to actually identify those cracks. And if you're coming to my room, you may see certain other things, and the household will be good. But if you begin to, you know, to create cleavages by way of animosity, it's really not helpful for the party. And let us know also, political parties, let us know that we have just one Sierra Leone. Sierra Leone is what we have. If we practice democracy, fine. Election has tensions, emotions, competition. But let us know that after all, when you do what you do in your party remains, and your party is bigger than you are. When you come to the Sierra Leonean stage, Sierra Leone remains, and Sierra Leone is bigger than all of us. So let us think that way, and then move forward.
All right, thank you very much, Emmanuel Koiva Amara, and the Esquire, the chairman of the Political Parties Regulatory Commission, PPRC. Thank you very much for being part of the show. I
Thanks
hope
for being here this morning.
Yes, to get you again to talk about issues around political party preparation as well. More of that. Thank you very much for being part of the show.
Thank you for having me.
You're always welcome, sir.